Welcome back to Nightlight. I am Pete Schwaba, coming to you live from Northeast Wisconsin here in Christmas City, USA, also known as Marinette, Wisconsin. My compadre, Greg Bach, joins us from Radio Park in Racine, and Aaron Zomer is filling in for Dom Lee tonight in Madison. We are still the Outer Hay Triangle with a lefty out of the bullpen tonight. It's great to have Aaron Zomers with us. It is time for, I should just repeat the question of the night, folks. It is National Decency Day. Who is the first person that comes to mind when you think of decency? Share that answer with us. We'll read your texts throughout the show, primarily in hour number 2, though, and it is a Nightlight Movie Club night here. Our movie this week is Airplane. We'll discuss that at 6:20 and hope you'll be part of the conversation. Right now, it is my pleasure to welcome our first guest of the night, and this is his first time at Nightlight. He is the creator of Experience Milwaukee. Steve Glynn joins us now over the stream. Hi, Steve.
Hey, and I'm coming to you from sunny Greendale.
Ooh. Oh, okay. Where's Greendale?
Where is it?
Yeah, is that west of Milwaukee?
Just southwest of the city.
Okay.
Of downtown.
Nice. Do they have a Portillo's there?
We do.
What?
I enjoy it I go often. It's terrific.
All right, we're going to pivot. This whole interview is
that is
an
amazing opening question. Where are you from? Do they have a Portillo's?
You know what, Greg? It's called an icebreaker. It makes the guest feel.
You know,
I asked him to sing a song before. This is better, I think. So,
Steve, I want to apologize. Pete, I want to apologize. You're absolutely right, Pete. That was a great. I don't know what I'm thinking. You know, it's like I'm burning our chances at another burning our chances at a first WBA award.
Italian beef brings people together.
Yeah, there you
go. As do Chicago dogs.
Very true. Wow. We could just talk about.
I'll see you guys later. I'm out of here. Bye.
Right, I'll meet you there.
Some of these data centers are big enough where they could have a Portillo's in them. But before we get to all that and the tech community in Milwaukee, Steve, tell us a little bit about Experience Milwaukee and what you do there and how it was founded.
Yeah, so for 20 years, I've been a builder in the tech and entrepreneur creative community in Milwaukee. Started my first company as a meetup in 2007. Have always been about bringing people together. And the first company I started, I sold, and I'm a kid that comes from the Southside projects in Milwaukee. So in 2018, I thought, what can I do to give back to this city that embraced this kid that came from nothing? And how can I earn free beer? And so I started Experience Milwaukee as a way to shine a light on the small businesses that make up the fabric of how you experience the community.
Wow. Great answer.
You had me at free beer.
It worked. And I will say this, and why I'm here tonight, I think, is every year I found a way to sort of inject or sneak in a monthly show on tech, work culture, business, et cetera, to my business partner's chagrin. But he tolerated it. He's a great guy. And so at the end of this last year, 2025, I decided stop flirting with it. Go all in, tech and innovation around Milwaukee and the state.
Excellent. And we're here tonight to talk with you about data centers, about the proliferation of data. I think I said that right. Proliferation. Yeah, I did. Way to go, me.
Good.
And one of the things that, I know that our senior producer wanted, we talked about in our meetings about this interview was, you made a comment on LinkedIn that addressed a post from former state representative Dale Koyenga about data centers and a misleading headline about taxpayers. Do you want to talk more about that, and as far as like how data centers are being portrayed, slung, sold, spun by any or all sides, but specifically this from Dale Koyenga, who is very pro data center, but your thoughts on this?
Yeah, in the article, I think that the LinkedIn post and the article that Dale was referencing in his post, I believe, was about sort of the misleading nature of the headline from the paper on the tax exemptions and who's paying for them, where does the money come from? And my comment really was, hey, let's slow down a little bit. As a community guy, right, in tech in the city, when the community is asking questions or the community is concerned, we have to listen instead of just kind of jamming technical language down their throat. And so it was my way to pause it and say, look, I know that data centers are a reality, but I'm also curious how they can be the best for the community.
So in terms of these data centers, Steve, why should my question is, and Greg just shared this before the show, there's like over 400 of them nationwide now. I had no idea.
4,300.
Oh, 4,300. I'm sorry.
4,300 in this country.
I would have been like, whoa. But where was all the data being stored before these huge 40,000 acre data centers popped up?
I think they weren't so hip and cool in the way of like people know they exist, you know. And I'll give you an example. Part of my comment back to Dale was also, hey everyone, and I say this to people who are pro and against. Do you know there's a data center in the middle of a Milwaukee neighborhood on 31st and Highland that's been there for 13 years and uses zero water, zero. And people are surprised at that. And I think that opens up the conversation of if we're against data center for efficiencies or efficiency reasons, energy use reasons, water use reasons, we have options that I don't think are being communicated.
Well, I don't disagree with that either. And I think the options are a great part of the conversation. But what seems to be happening right now, and this touches on what you're talking about with regard to community, is a lot of these companies are coming into, instead of going to the neighborhood and holding town halls and saying, hey, we are such and such company, we want to do X, Y, and Z. Here's a breakdown. What they're doing is they're walking into the municipality buildings and saying, hey, here's an NDA. We want to do this. If you tell anybody, we'll leave town, and then we'll blame you, and we'll say you lost out on all these other things. And what we're seeing now are people realizing what's going on. In Wisconsin specifically, there are a lot of stories, you know, whether we're talking about Port Washington, we're talking about Mount Pleasant, or DeForest, where they actually have a group that's against data centers completely. You know, I think the problem, and I'm wondering your thoughts, is maybe these companies took the wrong, and before I ask the question, when that example you gave of the one using zero water, I'm going to hold those out of like, I'm talking about the newer ones right now, these huge data centers. Maybe the biggest problem was they decided we'll just kind of hold these politicians accountable and put them in their face instead of actually talking to people, because the people would have asked those questions. Maybe that was the wrong first step. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I would agree. That's probably not the ideal first step. And when you think about, and when I bring up the data center we do have in Milwaukee as that example, it's not to say, the point is we have a roadmap, we have a blueprint of how it can be done. And you're right, the cities are being held in different kind of ways.
I would say hostage.
That's probably a good word, right? And there's promises around certain things, and jobs is one of them, and those don't seem to materialize, and or they're a lot less than you think, and so it's interesting to see these cities who are sort of just willing to take what they can get, just to have the maybe it's the initial thrust of construction revenue. And then some sustainable bit over time, but it doesn't seem to be cohesively thought out to what is the strategy for tech within our communities.
It's interesting, the one that they just voted on in Utah with Kevin O'Leary behind it. He's the owner or one of the owners of that data center. I think it's a communication problem too. Like, I'm still fuzzy on how many jobs each one of these will actually create. And I know communities want jobs, but at the cost or at the expense of natural resources, that's an issue. If you were someone who owned a data center, how would you sell that to the public? You know, there's NDAs, there's people that assume that their politicians are in the pockets of the owners of data centers. How would you sell a data center to the community, whether you're for or against?
And I love this question because I'm not a data center expert, but I am an expert in building communities. I am an expert in how you connect people and ideas, right? And what happened in the example, and why I pointed out of the zero water uses, and there are a number of examples within that data center of best practices around energy and consumption and what you're taking from the environment. Why I bring it up is there are decisions that can be made, and to your point, Pete, hey, let's have a discussion about the parameters of this project first, and let's get the community comfortable with how this might be deployed. And I think that would be a completely different situation if the community has input into some of those decisions, including how much water are you going to use?
And I think that's one of the, I feel like that was the biggest question. Now it's just about how much will my electric bill go up?
How much will my electric bill go up? Yep.
How much land will you be taking up? And a question I've been wondering about, and I've asked other people about, and this is, I'm not asking you to look into a crystal ball and whatnot, but, when you see a Walmart close down, you don't think a Walmart can close down because it's Walmart, but Walmart's close because they move to a different part of the area, build bigger, but then there's a huge building left empty. So as technology progresses and these data centers technology progresses, they might use smaller and smaller facilities. Therefore, one day this 40,000 square foot center is useless to them, and they say, well, we're out of here, see you later. I mean, that's part of the conversation too. And I mean, are those conversations happening in the community that you're hearing in the tech side?
I am not hearing that, and I'll one up you, Greg. What happens when they go to space?
Yeah,
they don't, and they move up whatever up there. I think the point I'm taking and what you're making with me and to the audience here is, there's a number of variables that we can get sort of ticked off about and worried about. The biggest issue is we don't know. And the community doesn't know. And the community isn't getting answers. It's getting rationale pushed its way. And I think that's a little unfair to the community.
Absolutely.
Our guest is Steve Glenn. He is the founder of Experience Milwaukee, a great outfit that builds community. We're talking to him about data centers and the Milwaukee tech scene. Steve, we got about a minute before we have to go to a break, and then we'll continue our conversation. But what is the overall tech climate like in Milwaukee? I've read some of your Substacks, and I know what you're trying to do there, and it's very admirable. But what's the status right now, do you think?
So from my point of view, and I'll admit I'm getting grumpier by the day on this topic.
Oh, no.
From my point of view, we are misaligned. We are misaligned on tech. We're misaligned on what we think this city is around tech and what it really is. Well, how we see ourselves inside the bubble and how people see us outside the Milwaukee tech bubble.
That sounds like something we could jump into even further. Maybe
Absolutely.
We'll do that after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Glenn is here from Experience Milwaukee. We'll continue our conversation after a very short break. But it is a Nightlight Movie Club night, folks. In hour number 2, we're going to talk about the film Airplane. Please join the conversation. And our question of the night is, in honor of National Decency Day, who is the most decent person that comes to mind? Share, please, on the text line, 855-752-4842. You can also text us on the app or drop us a stream comment if you're watching the radio on YouTube, Facebook, or the app Greg still calls Twitter. We will be right back and have more with Steve Glenn after this very short break. Don't go anywhere, folks. Aaron Zomers is here. It's Nightlight with Pete and Greg.